Hey, my name's Ryan Carter. I'm 26, and I just moved to Chicago a couple of weeks ago after graduating from law school in a small Midwest town. The city's been overwhelming, tall buildings scraping the sky, people rushing everywhere like they're late for something important. I rented a tiny apartment in the Lakeview neighborhood, nothing fancy, just a one-bedroom with a view of the lake on good days, and a stack of unpacked boxes in the corner. It's cheap enough for a newbie like me, but it feels empty most nights. Tomorrow's my first day at Vasseur, Monroe and Associates, one of the top law firms in the city. I landed the job after a grueling interview process, but now the nerves are hitting hard. What if I can't keep up with the seasoned lawyers? What if I mess up and get sent packing back home? To shake off the anxiety, I decided to take a late-night walk along the Chicago River. The air was crisp, the kind that bites at your cheeks, and the city lights reflected off the water like shattered glass. It was getting close to midnight, and the streets were quieter than during the day, but still alive with the hum of traffic and distant laughter from bars. I zipped up my hoodie and shoved my hands in my pockets, letting my mind wander. Law school had been tough. Endless nights studying, scraping by on student loans, no time for much of a social life. Moving here felt like a fresh start, but also terrifying. I turned into Lincoln Park, the paths winding through trees that were starting to lose their leaves. That's when I heard it. A frantic barking, sharp and desperate. I stopped, scanning the shadows. Out of nowhere, a golden retriever burst from the bushes, darting across the path, eyes wide with panic. It looked lost, zigzagging like it didn't know where to go. A car horn blared as it nearly ran into the street, tires screeching to a halt. Without thinking, I sprinted after it. "Hey, buddy, come here," I called, my voice echoing in the empty park. The dog paused for a second, ears perked, but then bolted again. I lunged forward, grabbing its collar just as another car sped by. It yelped and squirmed, but I held on, kneeling down to calm it. "Whoa, easy there, you're okay." The dog was beautiful, golden fur, big brown eyes, but it was trembling, pressing against my leg like I was its last hope. I checked the collar, a silver tag engraved with Max. If found, call this number. There was a phone number etched below, but it was late, and I didn't want to wake someone up if I could help it. Plus, the dog seemed too scared to leave alone. "All right, Max, let's figure this out," I muttered, standing up. I spotted a poster on a nearby lamppost. "Lost dog, Max, golden retriever. Reward if found. Contact 1147 Willow Drive." It had a photo that matched perfectly. Willow Drive wasn't far, a ritzy street along the river, full of mansions and manicured lawns. I figured it was worth a shot. "Come on, boy, let's get you home." I looped my belt through Max's collar as a makeshift leash and started walking. The neighborhood shifted as we went, from the casual vibe of Lakeview to the upscale quiet of Willow Drive. Streetlights cast long shadows on wide driveways, and the houses looked like something out of a magazine. Brick facades, iron gates, gardens that probably cost more than my rent. Max perked up a bit, wagging his tail as we got closer, like he recognized the area. Number 1147 was at the end of the block. A sprawling two-story with white fences, blooming flower beds, even in the fall, and warm lights glowing from the windows. It screamed money, the kind I wasn't used to. I hesitated at the gate, feeling out of place in my faded jeans and sneakers, but Max pulled toward the door, barking softly. I took a deep breath and pressed the doorbell. The door opened after a moment, and there she was. A woman in her mid-30s with brown hair tied back in a loose ponytail, wearing a cream-colored suit that looked a little rumpled, like she'd just come from a long day. Her blue-green eyes widened when she saw Max, and she dropped to her knees right there on the doorstep. "Max! Oh my God, Max, you're back!" She wrapped her arms around him, burying her face in his fur as he licked her cheek, tail wagging furiously. Her voice cracked a little. "You scared me so much, buddy. Don't ever do that again." Watching her, I felt a pang. This strong, put-together woman suddenly so vulnerable. It hit me how much this dog meant to her. She looked up at me then, wiping her eyes quickly, a grateful smile breaking through. Thank you so much. You have no idea. He's everything to me." I shrugged, trying to play it cool. "No problem. I just found him in the park. He almost got hit by a car." She stood up, smoothing her suit, and invited me inside. Please come in. Let me at least get you something warm. It's freezing out there. The house was stunning. High ceilings, hardwood floors, a living room with plush couches and bookshelves lined with legal tomes. She poured me a mug of hot tea, insisting I sit while Max curled up at my feet. I'm Amanda Vasseur, she said, handing me the mug. I got home from work and the back gate was open. Must have been the wind. I panicked when he wasn't there. We chatted a bit. She mentioned she was a lawyer, lived alone with Max, and that he'd been her companion through some tough times. I told her my name, that I was new in town, starting a job tomorrow. Before I left, she pressed a business card into my hand. I owe you big time, Ryan. Call if you ever need anything. As I walked back to my apartment, the card in my pocket, I couldn't shake the strange mix of emotions. Relief for Max, curiosity about Amanda, and something warmer I couldn't quite name. Little did I know that night had just opened a door I never expected. The next morning came way too fast. My alarm buzzed at 6 a.m., pulling me out of a restless sleep. I'd tossed and turned half the night replaying the encounter with Amanda and Max. That business card sat on my nightstand, her name printed in elegant font. Amanda Vasseur, partner at Vasseur, Monroe & Associates. It hit me then. Vasseur. Was that a coincidence? The firm I was starting at today had the same name. I shook it off, chalking it up to nerves. Chicago was big. What were the odds? I showered quickly, pulled on my best suit, the one I'd bought on sale for interviews, and grabbed a quick coffee from the corner shop. The L train was packed with commuters, everyone buried in their phones or staring out the windows. I stood gripping the pole, going over my introduction in my head, confident but not cocky. By the time I reached the Loop, the financial district, my heart was pounding. The firm's building was a sleek glass tower, the kind that screamed power and prestige. I stepped into the lobby, showed my ID to security, and took the elevator to the 25th floor. The reception area was all marble and modern art, with a young assistant smiling as she handed me a name badge. Mr. Carter, the orientation is in conference room A, coffee's inside. I nodded, smoothing my tie, and pushed open the door. The room was filled with about a dozen new associates like me, fresh-faced grads in sharp outfits, plus a few senior partners chatting at the front. I found a seat near the back, exchanging polite nods with the guy next to me. The air hummed with low conversations. Heard the managing partner is tough, someone whispered. Yeah, but brilliant. I sipped my coffee, trying to look calm. Then the door swung open and in walked a woman who commanded the room without saying a word. She was in a navy suit, perfectly tailored, with her hair in a neat bun and a stack of folders under her arm. Amanda. My mug nearly slipped from my hand. She scanned the room, her blue-green eyes landing on me for a split second. A faint smile tugged at her lips, recognition, maybe amusement, before she turned to the group. Good morning, everyone. I'm Amanda Vasseur, managing partner here at Vasseur, Monroe & Associates. Welcome to the firm. The room straightened up as she launched into her speech. Firm history, expectations, the high standards we were all held to. Her voice was steady, authoritative, with that same warmth I'd glimpsed last night but sharpened by years in the courtroom. I sat there, frozen, piecing it together. She wasn't just any lawyer, she was the Vasseur, my boss, the one who'd decide if I sank or swam here. After the formalities, we broke for handshakes and small talk. I hung back, pretending to check my notes, but Amanda made her way over eventually. Ryan Carter, she said, extending her hand with a knowing smile. Pleasure to meet you. Again. Her grip was firm, professional, but her eyes sparkled with that shared secret. I texted you this morning to say thanks again, but no reply. Busy preparing? I cleared my throat, feeling my face heat up. Yeah, something like that. I didn't want to, mess up my first impression here. She laughed softly, a sound that cut through the room's chatter. After last night? You've already made a great one. Max hasn't stopped wagging his tail since you left. We chatted briefly about my background, law school, why Chicago, and she nodded approvingly. We'll put you on some real cases soon. Don't worry, you'll fit in. As she moved on to greet others, I exhaled, my mind racing. How was I supposed to focus now? The first few days were a whirlwind. orientation sessions on firm protocols, client confidentiality, billing software. I was assigned to a mid-level associate named Mark, who piled me with research tasks for ongoing cases, contract disputes, corporate mergers. The office was buzzing, phones ringing, lawyers debating in hallways, the constant clack of keyboards. I threw myself into it, staying late to double-check memos, volunteering for extra reading. Part of it was proving myself, but honestly, a bigger part was Amanda. I caught glimpses of her in meetings, striding down halls with that confident poise, or barking orders during strategy sessions. She was relentless at spotting flaws in arguments that others missed, but fair, always giving credit where due. Yet, every time our paths crossed, there was that subtle shift. A nod in the elevator, a quick, "How's it going?" in the break room. Once, during a team lunch, she sat across from me and asked about my adjustment to the city. "Chicago can be lonely at first," she said, her tone casual but eyes searching. "If you need recommendations, restaurants, spots to unwind, just ask." I mumbled something about exploring the Riverwalk and she smiled. "Good choice. Max loves it there too." By the end of the week, she pulled me into her office for a one-on-one. It was massive, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the skyline, a desk cluttered with case files and a photo of Max on the shelf. "You're doing well, Ryan," she said, leaning back in her chair. "Your research on the Harlan merger was spot on." I thanked her, trying not to stare. Up close, without the chaos of the office, she seemed more approachable, like the woman who'd hugged her dog on the doorstep. "Listen," she added, "I meant what I said last night. If there's anything I can do to help you settle in, mentoring, advice, just say the word." There was a pause, and I felt that pull again, that unspoken connection. "Actually," I ventured, "if you're serious about that reward, maybe I could stop by and see Max sometime." Her face lit up. "He'd love that. How about Friday after work? I'll cook something simple." I agreed, my pulse quickening as I left her office. The rest of the day blurred by, but one thing was clear: this job and Amanda were going to be more than I bargained for. That evening, as I rode the train home, the city lights streaking past, I replayed our conversation. She was my boss, sure, but there was something else there. A warmth, a shared glance that lingered. I told myself it was just gratitude for Max, nothing more. But deep down, I knew I was already looking forward to Friday more than I should. That Friday evening, I found myself standing outside Amanda's gate on Willow Drive, a bottle of wine in hand as a polite gesture. The week had been exhausting, endless case reviews, late nights poring over depositions, but the thought of seeing her and Max had kept me going. I rang the bell, and Max's bark echoed from inside, followed by the door opening. Amanda stood there in jeans and a soft sweater, her hair down for the first time, looking more relaxed than I'd ever seen her at the office. "Right on time," she said with a smile, stepping aside. Max has been pacing by the door. The dog bounded out, jumping up to lick my hand, and I knelt to ruffle his fur. "Hey, buddy, missed you too." The house smelled like garlic and herbs. Amanda had made pasta with a simple tomato sauce. Nothing fancy, but it felt homey. We sat at the kitchen island, Max at our feet, and talked about the week. She asked about my first big assignment, a contract dispute I'd helped research, and praised the memo I'd turned in. "You're picking this up faster than most," she said, pouring us wine. "But don't burn out. I see that drive in you. It's familiar." I nodded, swirling my glass. Coming from a small town, I feel like I have to prove I'm not out of my depth here. She tilted her head, her eyes softening. "I get that. I started the same way, scrappy, always working twice as hard. As the evening went on, the conversation shifted from work to personal stories. Amanda opened up about her path, growing up in a middle-class family in the suburbs, pushing through law school on scholarships, building her career brick by brick. "I sacrificed a lot," she admitted, staring into her wine. "Friends, relationships. My marriage fell apart because I was always at the office, chasing the next win. He left for someone who had time for him." There was no bitterness in her voice, just quiet reflection. "Now it's just me and Max. He's the one constant that doesn't judge." I listened, feeling a pull toward her vulnerability. "That sounds lonely," I said softly. She met my eyes. "It is, but I've gotten used to it." What about you, Ryan? You don't talk much about your past. I hesitated, then shared more than I usually did. My parents died in a car accident when I was in high school. No siblings, no close family. I worked odd jobs through college, put myself through law school. It's why I'm here, proving I can make it on my own. Amanda reached across the island, her hand brushing mine briefly. That's a heavy load for someone so young. You're stronger than you give yourself credit for. Max nudged my leg then, breaking the moment, and we both laughed. The night ended with me helping clean up, Max asleep on the rug. As I left, Amanda hugged me lightly at the door. Thanks for coming. It was nice not eating alone. Walking home, the city air felt lighter, but my thoughts were tangled. Work boundaries, that touch, her story echoing mine. Over the next few weeks, those visits became a routine. She'd text midweek. Max misses his hero, dinner Friday? I'd show up with takeout or groceries and we'd cook together. One night we made stir-fry, chopping vegetables side by side, music playing softly. Amanda turned to me, knife paused. You know, I haven't had company like this in years. It's refreshing. I smiled. Me neither. Back home, it was just me and books. She laughed, but her eyes held something deeper. As we ate, she shared more. Her ex-husband's affair, the divorce that left her questioning everything. I threw myself into work to forget, but success doesn't keep you warm at night. I nodded, opening up about my own fears, feeling like an outsider in the firm, always second-guessing. Sometimes I wonder if I'm cut out for this world. She set her fork down. You are, I've seen it in your work. And in how you handled Max that night. You care, Ryan, that's rare. Work ramped up too. Amanda assigned me to a major antitrust case, and we spent late hours in the office poring over documents. The conference room would empty out, leaving just us with coffee cups and highlighters. See this clause? She'd say, leaning close, her shoulder brushing mine. That's where they slip up. Her focus was intense, but in those quiet moments, she'd drop the boss facade, asking about my day, sharing a joke. One evening, after a tough strategy session, I found her in her office, head in hands. She looked up, eyes red. Rough day, she murmured. I didn't pry, just brewed fresh coffee from the break room and sat across from her. You don't have to talk, but I'm here. She reached for my hand across the desk. You make me feel safe, Ryan, like I don't have to be perfect. We sat like that for a while, the city lights twinkling outside. I started noticing little things, how she'd keep my forgotten hoodie in her hall closet, how Max would curl up next to me on the couch during our evenings, how her gaze lingered when we said goodbye. One night at her place, after a simple meal of grilled cheese and wine, Max dozed by the fireplace. Amanda sank onto the sofa, sighing. I don't know how I'd get through these weeks without you and Max. I sat beside her, our knees touching. Same here. She turned to me, her face inches away, and for a moment the air thickened. But she pulled back, smiling faintly. You're dangerous, you know that? I didn't push, just squeezed her hand. As I left that night, the unspoken tension hung between us, and I knew we were teetering on an edge, professional lines blurring, feelings simmering just below the surface. The weekend arrived with a mix of anticipation and nerves. Amanda had texted me Thursday. Long week, come over Friday, wine and no shop talk. I agreed, picking up a bouquet of simple daisies on the way, nothing flashy, just something to make her smile. When she opened the door, Max greeted me first, his tail a blur. Amanda looked effortless in a soft sweater and jeans, her hair loose around her shoulders. You didn't have to, she said, taking the flowers, but her eyes lit up. We moved to the kitchen where she'd set out cheese and crackers, a bottle of red already open. Max settled by the fireplace as we poured glasses and eased into conversation. We started light, favorite books, hidden spots in the city, but the wine loosened things up. Amanda leaned against the counter, swirling her glass. You know, I've been thinking about what you said last time, about having someone real. Her voice was quieter, more introspective. I set my glass down, stepping closer. I've been thinking, too, about you. The air shifted, charged with everything we'd left unsaid. She looked up, her blue-green eyes searching mine. Ryan, this could complicate everything. The firm, my position. I nodded, but didn't back away. I know, but pretending it's not there is harder. She set her glass aside, her hand finding mine. You're right. God, you're always right about this. Then, without another word, she closed the distance, her lips meeting mine in a kiss that started soft, tentative, then deepened with all the pent-up emotion we'd been holding back. It was like a dam breaking, warm, urgent, her hands on my shoulders, mine at her waist. When we pulled apart, breathless, she whispered, "That was overdue." I smiled, brushing a strand of hair from her face. Worth the wait. We didn't rush further that night. Instead, we talked, really talked. She admitted her fears. The divorce had left scars, making her wary of vulnerability, especially with someone younger, someone from work. People will talk, she said, tracing patterns on my arm. They'll say I'm using my power or you're climbing the ladder. I held her gaze. Let them. This isn't about that, it's about us. She nodded, pulling me into another kiss, slower this time. As the evening wound down, Max snoring softly nearby, she walked me to the door. You're my reward, Ryan, for surviving all this. I left with her taste lingering, the city night alive around me, knowing we'd crossed a line we couldn't uncross. The following weeks were a delicate balance. We kept things secret at the office. No lingering looks, no private meetings unless necessary. But outside, it blossomed. Stolen dinners at quiet spots downtown, walks along the lake with Max as our alibi. One night, after a grueling case prep, she showed up at my apartment with takeout. I needed to see you, she said, kicking off her shoes. We ate on the floor, laughing about firm gossip, but it always circled back to us. I feel alive with you, she confessed, her head on my chest, like I can breathe again. I wrapped my arms around her. You do the same for me. Chicago doesn't feel so big anymore. But the challenges came fast. Rumors started swirling, subtle at first. A colleague mentioned in the break room, heard Vasseur's taking a shine to the new guy. Mark, my mentor, pulled me aside one day. Be careful, kid. Mixing work and whatever can bite you. I played dumb, but it stung. Then it escalated. An anonymous email to HR about inappropriate favoritism, citing my quick assignments to big cases. Amanda was called into a partners meeting. She came out fuming, but composed. They're watching us, she told me later, over coffee at her place. One of them is gunning for my spot, thinks I'm distracted. I felt a knot in my stomach. This is my fault. If I back off... She shook her head fiercely. No. We're adults. We'll handle it. That night we stayed up planning, her prepping defenses for the board, me doubling down on my work to prove I earned every opportunity. The pressure peaked during the antitrust case. Deadlines loomed and the team was stretched thin. Amanda and I worked late but kept it professional. No touches, no whispers. One evening after everyone left, she slammed a file down. This could cost me everything if we lose. I stood, pulling her into a hug despite the risk. We won't. You're brilliant and I'm right here. She melted against me, her strength cracking just a bit. What did I do to deserve you? We kissed then, fierce and reassuring, the office lights dim around us. But reality hit. A senior partner walked in unexpectedly, catching the tail end. Amanda, he said, eyebrow raised. She straightened, cool as ice. Discussing strategy, Ryan's heading out. I left, heart racing, knowing the storm was brewing. The next day, the whispers turned to stares. HR scheduled a routine check-in for me, hinting at conflicts of interest. Amanda faced the partners alone, emerging pale but determined. They want proof we're not compromising the firm, she said that night, pacing her living room with Max watching. If we deny it, they'll dig. I took her hands. Then we fight. Your track record speaks for itself, and I'll prove mine in court. We spent the weekend prepping the case harder than ever, turning fear into fuel. By Monday, the antitrust hearing went flawlessly. Amanda's arguments dismantled the opposition, my research sealing the win. The partners congratulated her publicly, the rumors fading like smoke. As the team celebrated with drinks, she caught my eye across the room, a silent, "We did it." Later, alone in her office, she pulled me close. You saved me again, Ryan. Not just Max this time. I kissed her forehead. We saved each other. The challenges weren't over, but in that moment, our bond felt unbreakable, ready for whatever came next. 3 months had passed since that pivotal win in the antitrust case, and things at the firm had settled into a new rhythm. The rumors died down, buried under the weight of our success and the partners' reluctant acknowledgement that Amanda's leadership and my contributions were undeniable. I'd been promoted to a full associate role, handling my own caseload now, with the respect of my colleagues earned through late nights and sharp insights. The office felt less like a battlefield and more like a place where I belonged. But the real change was outside those glass walls. Amanda and I had found our balance, keeping our relationship discreet but no longer hidden in shadows. We didn't flaunt it. No hand-holding in the hallways or shared lunches that screamed anything beyond professional camaraderie. Instead, it was in the quiet moments. A knowing glance during meetings, a quick text about dinner plans. I started spending more evenings at her place on Willow Drive. Max would greet me at the door like an old friend, his golden fur shedding everywhere as he leaned into my legs. One night, I arrived with ingredients for tacos, my attempt at cooking for once. Amanda laughed when she saw the bags. "You're spoiling me," she said, tying an apron around her waist. We chopped onions and peppers side by side, Max weaving between our feet, begging for scraps. The kitchen filled with the sizzle of ground beef and the warmth of easy conversation. "You've turned this house into a home again," she murmured as we plated the food. We ate on the patio overlooking the garden, the city skyline twinkling in the distance. Chicago's lights had a way of making everything feel possible. Amanda reached for my hand across the table. I used to dread coming back here alone. Now, I look forward to these nights. I squeezed her fingers. "Me too. You've given me something I didn't know I was missing, a place that feels right." Our weekends blurred into simple routines. Morning walks with Max along the lakefront, where he'd chase squirrels while we sipped coffee from thermoses. One Sunday, we drove out to the suburbs for a farmer's market, picking fresh produce and laughing at Max's attempts to snag a treat from vendors. Amanda opened up more about her past, the ambitions that had driven her to the top, the loneliness that came with it. "I built walls to protect myself," she said as we unpacked groceries back home. "But you slipped right through." I pulled her close, kissing her forehead. "Good thing those walls had a dog-shaped hole." She smiled, but there was depth in her eyes. "Seriously, Ryan, I thought my life was set. Career, Max, nothing else. You showed me there's room for more." I felt the same. She'd given me confidence, a sense of belonging in this vast city. "You make me believe I'm enough," I replied. Max barked then, demanding attention, and we both knelt to play with him, our laughter echoing through the house. We handled the firm's scrutiny with care. At a company gala that month, Amanda introduced me as a rising star and a good friend. No one batted an eye, but it was our subtle way of easing into openness. A few colleagues raised eyebrows, but the results spoke louder. Our win rates were up, and the partners valued stability over gossip. Still, there were tense moments. A pointed comment from a rival associate during a team lunch, or an email from HR reminding everyone of conduct policies. Amanda faced it head-on, her poise unbreakable. "We've earned this," she'd say afterward, curling up on the couch with me and Max. "No one's taking it away." One evening, after a particularly grueling day, she stood in the kitchen, stirring soup, and turned to me. "If the firm ever forced a choice," I interrupted gently, "they won't. But if they did, I'd choose you." She set the spoon down, her expression softening. "That's what scares me and thrills me." Our bond deepened in those small, everyday ways. We'd listen to jazz records on her vintage player, Max dozing nearby, or sit on the patio watching the stars emerge over the city. Amanda started leaving notes in my briefcase, little encouragements like, "You've got this," before big meetings. In return, I'd surprise her with walks to her favorite bakery or helping with chores around the house. "I never thought I'd have this again," she confessed one night, her head on my shoulder as we watched the river from her window. A partner, not just in law, but in life. I held her tighter. "You deserve it all, and more." Max stirred then, padding over to join us, his presence a reminder of how it started. One crisp evening, we took Max for a walk along the Chicago River, the same path where I'd found him that fateful night. The water reflected the skyline, boats gliding by under the bridges. Amanda linked her arm with mine, Max trotting ahead on his leash. "What if the firm turns on us one day?" she asked quietly, her voice carrying a hint of old fears. I stopped, turning to face her. "The only thing I'd regret is not finding Max sooner, so I could have met you earlier." She laughed, tears glistening in her eyes, and pulled me into a kiss, right there under the streetlights. The city buzzed around us, but in that moment it was just us. Two people who'd stumbled into each other's lives through chance, built something enduring through choice. Life wasn't perfect. Work still demanded sacrifices and whispers lingered in corners. But we faced it together, our love a quiet strength. Max bounded back, barking happily, as if approving. Standing there by the river with Amanda's hand in mine and the city alive behind us, I knew this was our reward. A peaceful, grown-up kind of happiness, born from a lost dog and an open door.